Good morning, everybody. Thank you, Daisy. I'm not Julie Hiragoyen, you might have noticed that. I'm afraid Julie has succumbed to the dreaded Ecobuild lurgy, so you've got me instead, and we wish Julie a speedy recovery. If this is also your third day at Ecobuild, well done, stick with it. You're nearly there, and we've got some great sessions lined up today. This particular session, A Smarter Future, is the third and final Leadership Insights session that UK-GBC has been curating at Ecobuild this year. And we're this morning going to be exploring some of the big challenges facing the UK construction industry. How does it serve the needs of our economy, support a good quality of life for people and communities, and of course tackle some of the big environmental challenges that we face? And not just now, but in the future. What does the next generation of buildings and infrastructure look like? And how can we ensure that our industry is positioned to deliver this? I'll introduce the speakers in a moment. Each of the speakers will talk for about 5 minutes or so, pretty short remarks to enable us to get into a discussion, which I think is going to be really important. And I really want to invite you, as Daisy said, to contribute to that. So please, as the speakers are contributing, please have a think about what you would like to ask them and really do get involved. So we will hear in order from the speakers going from right to left. So let me introduce all in one go. Firstly, Mike Putnam. Mike is President and CEO of Skanska UK. Delighted that Mike is able to join us this morning. Claudine Blamey. Claudine is Head of Sustainability and Stewardship at the Crown Estate and has for a very long time been involved with the UK Green Building Council. Then Euan Burns. Euan is Chief Engineer at Carillion. And finally, Matt Smith. Matt is Environmental Operations Manager of Sustainability at Lendlease. And I'm very pleased to have Matt here. He's one of our future leaders, one of our really popular leadership programs that's now into its third year. So delighted to have all of you with us this morning and very much looking forward to your remarks and the discussion that follows. So please join me in welcoming Mike.
Thank you, John. Good morning, everybody. It's a real pleasure to be here this morning. So I'm just going to make a few comments around three things. Firstly, the role of the Green Construction Board, which I chair. Secondly, around some changes that I think we can look forward to in the future of construction in the built environment. And thirdly, the growing importance of the circular economy. So in terms of the Green Construction Board, we sit very much under the Construction Leadership Council, of which I'm also a member. And the Construction Leadership Council is taking forward the Construction 2025 industrial strategy for construction. And of course, within that, we've got some very bold targets. We've got a target around time, 33% quicker, a target around cost, 33% quicker, and green 50%. By the way, time is 50%, not 33. Both of these operate, the Green Construction Board and the Leadership Council work very much as a partnership between government and industry, working together to take the agenda forwards. The Green Construction Board itself was formed 4 years ago, so we've got a bit of a head start on this, and we refreshed the membership of it at the back end of last year. We're really working to further the key aims of the Leadership Council around the whole low carbon agenda and also the sustainability agenda. A couple of things that we're working on right now or that we've been progressing. Our work really is informed by the low carbon route map, and we kicked this off when we first started the board. We've just refreshed and done an update on this. The route map gives us what the trajectory looks like through to 2050. So it helps us understand the sorts of things that are going on and how they contribute to the overall reduction targets. I regret to say that in the recent update, we've actually slipped backwards, and I think that's as a result of the pickup in the economy. But we're also working on a number of other things. It's good to see here at Ecobuild that infrastructure is a bit more prominent this time. And in terms of infrastructure, we produced the Infrastructure Carbon Review, which was published by Treasury 2 years ago. And the great thing about low carbon in infrastructure is that we're able to demonstrate that by focusing on low carbon, you also get the benefit of lower cost. And I think this is one of the reasons why Treasury picked it up and wanted to run with it. Today we have something like 53 signatories. These are big organisations that have signed up to this agenda. And we're about to launch in May of this year, so not very far away now, the new PAS 2080. That's the publicly available standard around how to manage carbon in the infrastructure space. In addition to that, we're working on reducing emissions and energy efficiency in both the domestic and non-domestic sectors. We're contributing to the Peter Bonfield review, which is really around improvements in UK home energy efficiency and renewable measures. We're contributing to helping the understanding of the performance gap and very fitting because we're talking about circular economy. Last month we held a workshop with over 100 delegates looking at the whole circular economy model. That was very successful. Moving on to some changes that I see coming into the future. Well, I think we're entering quite an exciting time because one of the biggest changes that we see is around the widespread adoption of virtual technologies, digital solutions, data, using all of those to optioneer sustainable solutions going forward. I believe that this agenda will revolutionize the way we think about things and the way we put them into action. A second area, and this is a key thing within the Leadership Council as well, and government are very keen on this, is the whole off-site manufacture and modern methods of construction, modular solutions to construction. And a good example of this is with Anglian Water, where there's an alliance of which Skanska is one, and by having a focus on low carbon and on efficiency and off-site, over the last 5 years, we've achieved, over the previous 5 years, a 55% reduction in capital carbon, a 41% reduction in operational carbon, and a 25% cost reduction. So if you compare that against the targets of Construction 2025, you can see that we're going a long way towards it. Back in the infrastructure space, there's a big pipeline of work out there, which I think creates a real opportunity, providing we adopt and embrace the whole approach within the Infrastructure Carbon Review. And then in the building sector, well, of course, we've got a lot of new green technology, and I guess many of them are on display around Ecobuild. But I think the focus on new green solutions will only continue. Looking at efficient buildings, low emission vehicles, which are only just, they're emerging now, and the network of charging points that we'll need for those. Low carbon heat systems and power generation. There isn't time to go into all of these, but maybe that might spark a few questions. And then finally, in thinking about the circular economy, our industry, the built environment, accounts for something like 40% of all greenhouse gases. So there's a big need, but also a big opportunity for us to do something and drive some improvements. So construction, I think, has a real responsibility to adopt a circular economy type of approach. But in order to do that, we need to better understand what it's all about, because I think it's not widely understood. As I just mentioned, within the Green Construction Board, in order to help move that agenda forward, we held a workshop just a month ago, and we'll be very soon publishing the outputs from that workshop. But there are other things going on. Peterborough Local Authority, who we work with as a client, back at the back end of last year, launched a roadmap on the whole circular economy, and we as Skanska are contributing and supporting this approach. And then when you take Thameslink with Network Rail, they included design for disassembly within their overall criteria. So I think there's a lot happening, there's a lot to look forward to, but for me, one of the most important things, perhaps the important thing, is about leadership. This doesn't happen without leadership. And it's leadership at all levels, taking solutions forward on an early involvement basis and with true collaboration from client right the way down through the whole supply chain. That's the way to bring about change. Thank you very much.
Great. Good morning, everyone. So I'm going to dive straight in. When I hear the words smarter future, I get really excited because I've been banging on about future and future thinking for years, and it's finally here. I get excited because I think it means innovation. That means we get to play. We get to play, and if it goes wrong, we don't beat ourselves up about it. We learn. It means we look at trends, future trends, what we think is going to happen, and we bring that back into the business and start thinking about what we need to do now to try and achieve what's going to happen in the future. It means we get to collaborate, because I don't think we get to do any of this and achieve what we need to achieve without real partnership. So at the Crown Estate, we focus on 3 areas to really build resilience into our business for the future. Thought leadership is the first one. Looking at future trends, identifying material issues, being a parts of groups that are really pushing the boundaries. So, for example, we're a part of Accounting for Sustainability, the Prince's organisation, who has actually engaged hundreds of finance directors. And that's where we need to be heading. That's where we need to be engaging more in the finance part of the business. We work closely with Forum for the Future, again, helping us to identify those future trends. And we're part of a really exciting global group that are looking at net positive and how an organisation becomes net positive. Secondly, we are acting on those thoughts and that thought leadership. So using metrics in the business that helps make holistic, more rounded, and hopefully richer decisions. That's about understanding the capitals that we depend on, not just the financial, but also around the human capital, around the social, around the environmental, but also, really importantly, about the relationships capital. Without strong relationships, our business can't exist. We're making informed choices in terms of knowledge of future trends. And these changes that are happening at the moment are really significant. I keep hearing that we're going to see more change in consumer trends in the next 5 years than we've seen in the past 25. That means we've got to change with that. And I also think it's about developing a culture within organizations that enables that innovation to happen. And that means not hearing that horrible phrase that says, but this is the way we've always done it. Oh, that's like a red rag in front of a bull for me. And thirdly, it's about demonstrating. And that means we're reporting on our progress. We call that total contribution at the Crown Estate. Total contribution is made up of about 63 metrics that we are trying to use within the business to make decisions differently, that we wouldn't have been able to make those richer decisions without incorporating those metrics. So not just the financial outcome, but other outcomes as well. That's about managing risk, but it's also about recognizing opportunities. So we use those metrics and we do an integrated report, and that's how we demonstrate what we're doing. We don't produce a separate sustainability report. There's nothing separate about sustainability. I'm not saying we've got there and we are still on the journey, but for us, we're integrating everything together. And lastly, I wanted to talk about the importance of partnerships. We believe we can have a much greater impact by partnering with relevant organizations. I've got a good example. We're working to create more than 1 hectare of green space across Regent Street and St James's that isn't there at the moment. And that's equivalent to 1 1/3 times the size of the football pitch at Wembley Stadium, for those who need the metrics. Research has shown that cities retain only 8% of native birds and species, of 25% of plant species of comparable undeveloped land. We want to bring some of that back. So set within this urban area, the new green space will integrate gardens at street level, rooftops, as well as bird boxes and bat boxes, and green walls, of course. So the introduction of these green pockets amongst Regent Street and St James's historic buildings, well, we're hoping enliven the surrounding public spaces for the visitors and for people that work there, but also for the species that live there for the longer term. So whilst we kick this project off, we are working in partnership with other organisations and other landowners and landlords in that area. So we're working with Grosvenor Estates, Great Portland Estates, Howard Walden Estate, and Shaftesbury PLC. They've all signed up to really contribute to this. We've set a baseline and we're measuring everything that we're doing. And this has knock-on effects. So it has knock-on effects around air pollution, around well-being and happiness for the visitors for that area as well. And also we've got the GLA and the London Wildlife Trust working with us as well. So for me, a smarter future means being at the forefront of future thinking, building that thinking right back into the business so that we make our business more resilient to the future. And to have a bigger impact by partnering with relevant organisations. Thank you very much.
Good morning. One of my key tenets is trying to avoid waste. On that note, I did a quick check to see the cameraman was on the move before he narrowed in on that lectern. He gave me a microphone today to walk around, so I'll use it. I found very little to disagree with Claudine and Mike this morning. There's great stories around innovation, reduction of waste, but I think most importantly it came from Claudine there around partnerships and joining with our industry colleagues. I think through the work that Mike's been doing, we're starting to see quite a cohesive lexicon of how we behave in this environment. But more importantly for me, we're starting to see real cohesion from the construction industry through to the operate industry. My background's an operator. Every day of my life I look at how we operate, how we maintain. And I use it in that order because I'd rather operate, because if I start maintaining, I probably didn't quite operate it as effectively or efficiently as I could have. But those things are coming, and I start to see on a number of projects where big constructors, we actually talk the same language and we're actually driving largely in the same direction, and long may it continue. But we have to bring that closer to the operate world. BIM, great, it's going to come, it's going to make a difference. Not quite yet for the operate world, but we do need to embrace that change and that challenge to eventually get us there. We're currently working on one project where BIM is mandated, level 2 BIM, but we are really, really struggling, and we need the industry to help us realise the operational benefits out of that. That's a team game. Doesn't mean we have to sacrifice our IP or our commercial advantage, but we can work together for the common goals which UK-GBC, Green Building Council all espouse. We also got the mandate today from UK-GBC to talk about leadership perspectives. We've heard quite senior discussions, talk about senior partnerships. I actually have a big belief that what we can do is largely out there already. In my workforce, I have 3,000 technicians and engineers operating your infrastructure every day, and I'm sure some of my clients are out there someplace today, and they're certainly around the arena. But we actually need to make sure that we as an industry equip them with the right training, the right tools, but again, as the guy said, the right leadership. And as Mike said, that's leadership at all levels, right throughout the industry. And I'm not quite sure we're there yet. I think the built environment is still lagging behind, whether it be the military, the petrochem industries, the pharma industries. There are some very high-performing industries, and despite the 40% of the carbon footprint of the country being attributed to the built environment, we're not quite grasping that yet. So that's one of my passions, to make a difference. I think all the speakers probably talk all day about these subjects and enjoy it. I'll leave you with one final thought, picking up on Claudine's points. We talk about innovation, and everyone talks about innovation. And when I see people talk about innovation, or hear it rather, people always think about the next big thing we can buy, we can put in, we can do something with, what can I sell? But I don't think we're quite building that innovative culture. And I think if we build that innovative culture with those people I spoke about earlier, those technicians, engineers, in the field, operating in our built environment today, then we will actually achieve the objectives far, far more quickly. So if we leave you with that, build an innovative culture, the innovations will follow. And as that's our job as leaders. I'm sure most of you in the audience are leaders today. I'd be happy to take that challenge and questions after this. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. It's been about 5 years now since I did a bit of a career change and moved across to sustainability. And I was attracted in no small part, and this is not just saying it, this is actually genuine. I wanted to do something positive, have an impact on the world and actually have a positive impact through my job. And I guess that's probably something I share with a lot of people in the room in terms of what motivates them to get out of bed in the morning. And what better place to do that than working in this industry, in the built environment? Because as an industry, we're in a really unique position to be able to have a really positive impact on our natural environment, but also be able to make a real difference to people's lives. However, we know that making these significant changes to do this can actually be quite difficult, especially as what's probably perceived to still be quite a risk-averse industry. So to drive this improvement, we need to really create a culture of innovation in our industry. One that enables us to identify opportunities, to be able to experiment, and then not to shy away from risk as well. What an opportunity it is we have. I think we've touched on already, Mike mentioned around the construction industry about how much waste and resources are required and how these resources are increasingly constrained and having more of an impact, and a lot of their extraction can have a harm on the environment as well. And then once operational, these places use a huge amount of resources and produce a huge amount of waste. And then if we think about the people that actually live in these homes and live in the places that we create, not only can we, through good design and good place creation, not only can we make them more cost effective for them to live in, we can also actually help people to lead lives that are healthier, happier, more productive, and actually safer. And then overlay that as we look to the future with some of the global mega trends that are kicking in at the moment. We think about population growth, around urbanization, around resource constraints and things. And all these challenges that we're looking at are actually going to become exacerbated and be more pressured in the future. So here in London, we face a whole myriad of challenges, and that might be from water resources through to how we provide enough sustainable, high-quality homes for our growing population. And then, as I try and run home from Elephant and Castle every now and again, air quality is quite a big issue that we're all getting more concerned about. So to meet these challenges, we can't be risk-averse. We really, really need to be ambitious and innovative. It's important to make incremental changes, yes, and keep generating changes in technology, but also we need to look for these breakthrough innovations, new ways of working, new ways of solving the same problems. I think Einstein was famously quoted as saying, you can't solve problems using the same thinking that you used to create the problems in the first place. Probably not a perfect quote there, but you get the idea. So how might we actually go about achieving these breakthrough innovations and generating this in our organizations? First of all, we must think about innovation as being so much more than just technologies and materials, and actually start thinking about ways of working, about collaboration, and actually about understanding how people want to live in the future. One of the companies I really like is UK-GBC, you might have understood, who are actually taking these self-contained, prefabricated units and really disrupting that rental model by bringing good quality, sustainable homes at below market rents. And then we also need to be really clear about the challenges, and actually doing that by going out, speaking to our customers, and understanding their needs. And then taking those challenges and bringing them together to create missions for our organization, things that we can all rally behind and understand. So at Elephant and Castle, where I'm working at the moment, we created a mission around in operation of the final development being carbon negative. And we're doing this through the C40 Climate Positive Development Program. Now this creates a real flag on the hill that we can all rally behind, gives us something to target, but also it then becomes a catalyst for other innovations and other ideas that we have to generate. And these missions also enable us to excite and engage our employees. Actually make innovation mean something to them, encourage them to make a difference, and actually reward them for being innovative at the same time. And this enables us to tap into all that experience and talent that's already there in our organizations, and indeed across the supply chain. So to underpin all this, I think it all comes back, and again it was mentioned about culture, creating a culture of innovation in our organizations. One that excites, encourages, and gives people that freedom and that opportunity to come up with ideas. And that culture must really, and this is very important, be accepting of risk, enabling us to experiment, and also enabling us to fail, but fail in a way that obviously doesn't overly damage the business. And that can be hard in our industry. So a lot of examples that you hear when you learn and talk about innovation is around agile tech companies. And we're not these agile tech companies. You know, we have long lead-in times, and we're a big industry. So for me, innovation isn't about wholly new products and new technologies. A good example that I like to talk about is cross-laminated timber and the use of CLT. So CLT is not a new technology by any stretch of the imagination, and we've been using wood and timber in construction for a long time as well. Rather, it's around how these things are being applied to solve new challenges and how new technologies are unlocking some of the benefits. So we look at things like offsite manufacture, standardization, BIM, and then looking at the end-of-life benefits and things like that, and circular economy. All of a sudden, we can see the advantages of going back to certain technologies. And then to enable these smarter futures, we also need to be able to communicate the wider benefits. Take CLT again as an example. How do we can quantify and we can capture the speed of build advantages, the lightweight structures, reduce waste. But then how do we capture things like health and well-being, safer sites, and embodied carbon, reducing the embodied carbon? So by creating this innovation culture, one that enables us to embrace risks, to unlock skills, we're going to attract a lot of people to our organization, but probably more importantly, we're going to be able to take all those skills that are already in the organization and enable people that are there to really flourish and feel like they're contributing. We can certainly identify, implement, and share solutions that are going to enable us to identify some of these environmental challenges and create great places for people to live. I think perhaps when we look at smarter futures and going forward, the biggest risk that we face as an industry is essentially not innovating, because somebody else is going to come in and they're going to disrupt our industry for us. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much to all our speakers, and let me remind you that I do want to come to you for questions shortly, and we've got some roving mics, so please do sort of indicate in a moment. But as sort of chair, I want to kick things off, and I suppose it's partly my role to play devil's advocate a bit, so let me do that. You could argue that the industry, the construction industry, is doing all right. Thank you very much. It expands, it contracts, depending on the state of the economy. Those in leadership positions tend to do all right. It'll batten down the hatches when it needs to. It's those at the bottom that will tend to lose their jobs. I suppose I wanted to explore a little bit more what is actually going to drive the sorts of leadership and the sorts of innovation that all of you have sort of touched on this morning. Can we envisage a future in which it is sort of impossible to do business without embracing innovation and new methods of construction? And if so, how is that going to happen practically? What will actually drive that? Can I start with you, Mike?
Yeah, I think it's a good challenge. I don't think we are doing enough, nowhere near enough. I think there are some leading organisations that are doing some quite good things across the client groups, across the contractor groups, and in the supply chain. But, and I don't know what percentage these leading companies make up, but I would suggest it's still quite small compared with the totality of the industry. So I think we have to collaborate much more. We have to share our ideas. We have to get, through that collaboration, we have to get greater momentum going. So we have to show people what good practice looks like. We have to help build that innovation culture because it doesn't just happen. It has to permeate right the way down through our organisations, through all of the 3 million people that work across our industry. So actually one of the things we've got as a focus within the Green Construction Board is around improving skills, making green part of people's sort of everyday learning, so that it's not just an add-on to what we do. So I think it's about leadership. It's about companies, organisations taking their supply chain with them, but then also developing this broader industry solution as well.
Thanks, Mike. And I want to come back to the skills point in particular in a moment. Claudine, we're talking there about clients. I would imagine you're in that sort of reasonably small percentage that sort of Mike talked about being able to drive that change. Why do you imagine there is that sort of risk aversion in perhaps other parts of the industry amongst perhaps some of your peers?
I think to drive change, you need a really burning platform. And I think because the actual problems that we're facing are so long term, people don't realise how burning that platform is. So although we're seeing climate change around us at the moment, it's still not sinking in that it's happening. And I think, to your point, in terms of collaboration, I think we can't do anything without making real systemic change. And that's changing, getting the whole value chain from clients to the construction side to the sort of customers at the other end, and all the people that produce all the bits in between to get together and talk about this. And I think that's where UK-GBC's have been doing such great work in trying to convene that right forum for it. But it's tough. Leadership has got to be key to it.
Yeah. Euan, you talked about needing to build that innovative sort of culture, and I think the stats show something like, as an industry, we invest 0.25% in R&D compared to a global average of something like 3.6%. Is that indicative of an industry that, historically and indeed currently is simply finding it impossible to embrace, innovation? Are you optimistic about the future?
I am optimistic about the future. Yesterday morning, I spent all morning with Fujitsu, and I can't remember the figure, but it was 6 or 7 billion they spend on R&D per annum. Then you look at our own industry, and we frankly struggle. I think that's one of the things where the leaders can start to embrace those changes and start to invest further in R&D. That will then help us develop those innovative cultures that can bring things forward. I think part of that problem is that we've not been close enough as an industry, and it's quite a slow-moving industry. We see all the innovation and brilliant companies around here, but they're still not the thing we do, and they're still a little bit isolated. If you come with something different in the built environment, whether it be construction or for operation, it's very hard to sell those in. And that probably brings the next point, being that we're not very good at communicating with the clients at all levels. On a daily basis, I'm faced with clients who have frankly got rid of their experts, and they're looking to us to be the experts, so we're almost voting for ourselves, or we're competing with each other on a level but slow-moving playing field, if I'm that bold to ask Mike if he agrees with that, but he's nodded politely. So I don't think we're moving quickly enough, and that can all change by making it easier to research, develop, and bring things forward.
Matt, you spoke about breakthrough leadership a bit and some disruptive innovation, new business models. Do you think that going forward the industry is one that is likely to get challenged by new players in the market, perhaps from the technology or other sectors that actually fundamentally challenge the viability of the way that we're currently doing things?
Yes, certainly. And there's some great examples out of other companies and other industries in the past where there's been that failure to innovate, failure to sort of embrace new technologies and really understand what the opportunities are for those new technologies. And I think that's where I was sort of trying to take what I was saying before is around sort of really understanding the full opportunity and unlocking some of these benefits and really sort of going back. And we're fortunate at Lendlease, we've got a real drive on innovation at the moment, which has given us that opportunity to go out and experiment and try and do some of these things. And it's around the horizon scanning, it's going out, it's understanding what's out there, it's understanding the type of technologies that are out there, and then understanding what they mean to our industry and how they can impact on what we're doing. So it might not be a direct competitor, but I think you're right. Things like technology in buildings is going to be huge. Prefabrication is going to be huge. So it might not disrupt the whole industry, but it's definitely going to disrupt certain ways of doing things. New materials coming in, replacing old ways of working. So what we need to do is enable people to be resilient in their careers as well. So by enabling them to come in and sort of be part of this bigger picture innovation and contribute to different things, it means people are going to be a little bit less perhaps defensive of part of something that they might do now that they're kind of maybe a little bit fearful that might not be a key part of our industry going forward. So enabling people flexibility and being able to contribute, because I think, yes, we will get disrupted, maybe not as a wider industry, but in pockets in terms of how we do things.
I've got other questions that I want to ask, but I do want to come in because ask the audience to come in. I'm conscious of time. We have a roving mic over here and we have a roving mic over there. I'd like to take a couple of groups of questions if there are groups. So who would like to come in from the floor? Sorry, I can't see over there.
Hello. I'm an architect and a lecturer in architecture, and it was with great interest I was reading a book about LILAC, which stands for Low Impact Living Affordable Community. On page 18 of Paul Chatterton's book, there's something as me as a specifier, which I am determined to start using, is their ethical picking thing. So they're refusing to use companies in the production of their homes that invest in arms, invest in fossil fuels, invest in chemical industry, invest in all the dirty, nasty industries that none of us actually want to support, but actually are very big money drivers. And as part of a university, we also have the big divestment campaign, which is People and Planet trying to get universities to divest. They've had some very big wins with St Andrews and still struggling with some of the other educational institutions you would think would be keen to get on board. And I just wonder, where do your big practices have their investments? And maybe that's somewhere where you can be very open and looking at where actually it's about the whole picture. Sustainability isn't just looking at new technologies. It's about that sort of leadership, being really open and divesting.
I'm popping up here so I can actually see people. Is there anybody else in this area as well who might want to come in whilst we've got the mic in that direction? Don't be shy. Gentleman here. I'll ask you to ponder that one.
Good morning all. My name's Kieran. I work as a sustainability engineer. I came from New Zealand about 10 months ago to settle here and progress my career. I found that coming from New Zealand, we don't have a lot of legislation around green buildings and stuff to force people to develop sustainability and efficiency. Coming here, there's a lot more work, which is part of why I came here, but I'm also finding now that they're scrapping a lot of systems like carbon zero homes and systems like that, and I'm not hearing of anything better, even though the government says there's something coming through. I'm not hearing it. So I was curious, as your opinion?
I was struggling a little bit to catch some of that because the acoustics aren't great up here. It's around the role of government policy.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Is there one more question whilst we're in the audience? Yes, gentleman at the back, and there's a mic just reaching you. Yeah, go for it.
Hi, I'm Henry Appleby. I'm a structural engineer, and like many structural engineers my age, I've just left the petrochem industry. And I've gone into building new build houses and things with a structural consultancy. And the difference in culture of waste and sustainability is unbelievable. And I'm just interested to know, we had, my old contractor, you know, all these philosophies and things that came from the top of green culture and lack of wastage and stuff, which were laughed off on the office floor by the, you know, Jeremy Clarkson generation that had done the same thing for 50 years. And I'm interested to know just how you sort of advise to push those changes that come from the top, and I agree they need to, into the people that haven't had that culture in their engineering career for the last 50 years.
What a good question. Right, I'm going to ask you to kind of pick and choose, but try to cover all of them sort of between you. Who wants to kick us off? Mike, you've got the misfortune of being nearest to me, and therefore in my immediate eye line.
I can change that, John. I can go and sit down. There's a spare seat down the end.
You're in obviously a good position to comment a little bit on the state of government policy with your role on the Green Construction Board, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I was going to pick up on the first question, actually, and I think, and certainly we think within Skanska that sustainability is much wider than just the environmental agenda. So we absolutely include business ethics, we include health, safety and well-being as part of that focus. We also include diversity and inclusion as part of that agenda. So I think it's actually very broad. And when you think about, most people, when they think about sustainability, and certainly we focus on the triple bottom line approach. And the triple bottom line is exactly that. So you have to take into account all of these things. I don't know quite how you measure some of the things that you were talking about around the extent to which people invest in certain aspects, because I think there is a transition between where people have been and perhaps where they're going to. So for me, it's much more important to understand the intent and what people are really doing to match that intent. You asked me to pick up about policy. Although I sit on, well, I don't just sit, I chair the Green Construction Board, which is this partnership between government and industry. I don't speak for government. But I believe that you actually need a mix of some areas of policy that help accelerate change in certain areas. But I'm a firm believer that we can do a lot ourselves without that policy change that's there. So I don't worry too much about, I mean, obviously we have to comply with whatever the law says and what the policy direction says. And we do try and influence that within the Green Construction Board because we have very good representation from government departments, actually, sitting around the same table. But I think it comes back to this leadership point and driving the culture of the organisation to want to do things. I'm very disappointed by the comment at the back, actually, when you said that people just laughed at it. I can tell you, in our company, they don't laugh at it. They come and join us because they want to make a difference. And I think, you know, to have proper leadership, you have to walk the talk. And it sounds as though people weren't walking the talk within your organisation.
Claudine, I mean, the comment there about sort of Jeremy Clarkson sort of generation, reading between the lines, that's a bit of a kind of, you know, the sort of established way we've always done things. You've spent a career really trying to sort of challenge that. I guess, are there sort of particular tips or insights as to how you know, overcome those often internal obstacles best?
Yeah, there's a few tricks, which I'll give you in a second, but I think it really is about setting the tone, and that tone has got to come from the chief executive first. And once it's there from them, it does start to trickle down. But then there are processes that you need to tie in with that to make that happen. It's much harder to win hearts and minds, and sometimes I found the best trick was to get other peers to talk to those middle management. So I used all sorts of ways to do that. There's lots of awards dues. We at least attend 3 or 4 awards dues a year, and these guys all attend these awards dues. Make sure when they go to the Property Weeks Awards or whatever, they sit next to someone who's going to preach to them about sustainability and how well they're doing in their own organisations, and they'll come back a different person. The other brilliant one was I sent one of our board members when I was at SEGRO to a Seeing is Believing session at BITC. And he was a real skeptic before he went off, and he came back actually with lots of ideas around how SEGRO can improve their strategy, particularly on his side of the business. So peer-to-peer pressure really works.
Thank you. Euan, you're obviously Carillion, a sort of large employer. Do you want to sort of tackle the investment question that was posed there?
I didn't quite catch it, John.
I suppose about your role as an investor, whether that's in terms of your sort of pensions or other sort of assets that you hold, and the extent to which you can actually sort of drive positive change in that way.
I think, picking up on some of Mike's comments again, I think we've got to make sure we look at multifaceted on everything we do. You can't be too narrow, but there's also a journey from where vehicles and investments and your structures are, and take it all through that. If you have the right leadership to drive us to where that's going, then you'll get there. I don't think we can broadly disagree with the comments. It's just how you get there to make sure that you are free of such investments and negative connotations. And you see some very good companies get caught out because they didn't quite understand what a bank or an organisation or vehicle was actually then putting their money into. So it's highly complex, but broadly agree that we should work hard to do it, and I think most of the reputable companies are driving that way, trying to go there together. And again, back to the comments throughout today, is together we can be stronger because we can help each other understand where those things are.
Yeah. Matt, can I ask you a question which we've touched on this, but maybe not sort of addressed it really directly, which is about skills. Yeah. And you know, is this sort of perception of the industry as a bit of a laggard actually harming the attraction of the right sort of you know, young talent, diverse talent, you know, to the industry in your view?
Yeah, I think there is, unfortunately. There's still that perception about the industry as being quite old-fashioned and traditional. People don't necessarily appreciate just how broad it is. So down at Elephant Castle, which is a project I work on, you just think about the range of skills, the range of people that are involved on actually making that happen as a project. There's a huge number of different things you can do. And it's all part of this going in, speaking at schools. So we have lots of schools coming in, we go out, speak to schools, engaging with universities and things like that, and just really enabling people to understand what kind of opportunities there are and how, you know, what a great industry this is. I came from finance into construction of the built environment, and there's so much more going on here. It's so much more exciting for me as a place. And then it's making sure that when those people have joined, as we were saying before, is give them the opportunity to map their career and do different things and, you know, learn new skills as they go through and not get too siloed.
Okay. Now, we're running out of time. We've only got 2 or 3 minutes left. Now, Julie has asked me to ask you a very unfair question, really put you on the spot as a sort of final question. But I'm going to ask you to be very, very brief, which is also very, very tricky. If you had one specific insight that sums up the importance of leadership in terms of achieving transformational change, whether that's as an industry or as an organization or on an individual level, what would that insight be? Who would like to go first?
I don't mind going first. Can I just add something to the skills piece, though, because, and just to build on what Matt has said, you know, our industry is a fantastic place for people to have a really fulfilling career. Through the Leadership Council, we are slowly getting more joined up about how we sell the attributes of the industry. And actually, when you look around the audience today, from a diversity perspective, it's not looking too bad. We can still get a lot better. For me, the leadership piece is very, very simple. And it doesn't matter at which level you're applying it to. It's simply about making things happen. That's it. If you make things happen, and then you can generate momentum as well. So making things happen.
Thanks, Mike.
I'm going to keep it simple as well. It's about being really persistent.
Thank you.
I think it's set from the top with clear guidance and direction, and then from top to bottom in the industry, in your firm, in your sector, in your contract, then it's lead absolutely consistently, day in, day out, from the front.
I'd say mine's ownership, because at the end of the day, the people that are delivering sustainability are the design teams, the architects, everybody that's working on the ground. We in sustainability, we're just there to help facilitate and make it happen. So give them the credit, let them do it, let them drive it forward.
Fantastic. Wow, you like true leaders, you all stuck perfectly to your brief there. So we're just about out of time. So thank you very much for being with us this morning. I'm reminded of that quote from the sort of futurist William Gibson. He said, "The future is already here, it's just unevenly distributed." If you're not already involved with UK-GBC, please do come and talk to us on the stand. Leadership will continue to be a key theme for us going forward, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you very much.
Thank you.